Hello leaders, my name is Jason Graziani. Welcome to our channel, Leader for Life. Today we continue with our series on American politics. If you haven't seen our first edition, we are on video 2, which really is, video 1 is the American liberty, specifically the American individual. Today we're going to be talking about American workers. So from the vantage point, what are the top 5 issues that the American worker needs to think about as it pertains to politics? I strongly advise you to watch our leadership series on 10 principles, but at a minimum, make sure you watch video 1 because it segues very nicely into this video number 2 on here's our outcome. You're a leader. You're choosing to be a leader for life. You're running your household, you're running a business, you're running a sports team, you're running your corporation, and you know that you've got many different people within the organization that have differing opinions. And they say you should never talk about religion, politics, and certain subjects like this, and for most cases that is true. However, as a leader, you have to have a level of understanding and compassion to the different viewpoints that each individual member of your team has. And at the same time, you have to be rooted in your own convictions so that you know when times get a little tough or when your boat starts rocking a little bit in the ocean, that you know how to center that, how you know how to get it back on track. And that's by having an opinion. And having an opinion roots you. It gets you rooted in what it is that you're talking about. And so today, I want to introduce what I believe as it pertains to the American worker, not American individual, the American worker. What are the 5 most important subjects to talk about? And before I jump into that, I want to give you 3 disclosures. Number 1, this video is not for partisanship. It is not for me to give you my opinion or to try to sway your opinion, rather to introduce subjects, which is the second point. My job is to identify and to simplify subjects that maybe you're really into, but maybe you're not really into these subjects. Maybe you don't have an opinion rooted right now, or maybe you say, you know what, Jason, I consider myself a pretty good leader, but I really don't follow politics a lot. I really don't understand that. And so I want to help you identify and simplify these areas. And then finally, number 3, purpose for watching this video and for us to even engage in this political conversation to begin with is the following. By choosing to be a leader for life, you need to know what to do when certain subjects come up, and you at least need to have a basic understanding of these different areas that influence everybody's life. Point number 1, jobs. When you hear American economy or the American worker or domestic policy, what they're referencing is the American economy. And the American economy has a few numbers. And for those of you that are not big on numbers, just hang tight with me. I want to introduce, in a very simple fashion, a few very important numbers as it pertains to job. First, the labor participation rate. The labor participation rate in the United States at the time of this recording is in the neighborhood of 61 to 63%. Call it 62%. What does that mean? That means of every able-bodied adult that should be working, what percentage of them are working? Now, unemployment rate is the second ratio, and you usually hear that number. And unemployment rate is of everybody that's employed, obviously, how many people seeking employment have the employment. So again, let's go back. Labor participation rate of all able-bodied adults. All able-bodied adults, what percentage of them are working? Right now, it's just over 3 out of 5. Simply put, if you have 5 houses on your street, 3 people are working out of the 5 households. 3. So that becomes slightly of a challenge, and so we have to start talking about how do we take care of people that aren't working. But then, of the people that are seeking employment, what percentage of them have employment? Then you get into the unemployment rate. And so historically, that could be anywhere from the high single digits all the way up to 20-30%. But again, that varies from president to president. And so just know this part. Unemployment and labor participation rate deals with how often people are working. Now, income. Income is under the job category as well. There's minimum wage debate, and then there's the median income in America. So sometimes you'll hear politicians say things like, the unemployment rate is doing great, but maybe there's a lot of jobs that are low paying, and even though everybody may be working and maybe unemployment's low, maybe their discretionary amount of money that they have for their family is very low because the job they have doesn't pay very much. The median income in the United States over the last 20, 30 years has grown only very, very, very slightly. For the most part, people are debating what should the minimum wage be. And that's a whole debate in and of itself. And so you should have an opinion. The higher the minimum wage is, it's great for workers that are at the bottom. However, typically employers respond by laying more workers off when you increase regulation. And so you're going to have to dig deep into that subject and form an opinion for yourself. How much should the bottom level worker, minimum wage, be in the United States of America? And if you believe in increasing it, what will that do to the overall economy? It's your opinion. Point number 2, manufacturing. What should the United States produce itself? And what should the United States outsource? Let me give you an example. We've had this pandemic in the United States, the coronavirus, that many people are obviously familiar with. And during the coronavirus, we found that over 95% of our antibiotics were being made and manufactured overseas, specifically in China. But removing China from the point, here's a question that you would want to ask yourself. Is medicine something that we should make ourselves? Or should we have other countries making the medicine for us? Now, we understand the free market, invisible hand. We understand that if you let the global economy do its thing, that we're supposed to get a product at a cheaper price. And ultimately, in the eyes of capitalism, the cheaper price should move people towards wanting to do it the most efficient way possible. However, when you get into issues like national security, the overall health and well-being of a country, and how a country can support and sustain itself, the question is this: how much more are you willing to pay for a product? If it was made in the United States, maybe less efficiently, but we had more control of that product. You're going to have to make that decision for yourself. At some point, is it always about the lowest price? Or sometimes are we willing to pay more in order to have the control of the supply of that particular product or service? Number 3, the trade and budget deficit. The simple question is this: how long can we continue, or how long should we continue spending money that we don't have? For example, if I just make this an easy analogy and I round up, if the United States of America collects $3.5 trillion per year in taxes, but spends $4 trillion a year in our spending, that is called a budget deficit of $500 billion. Now, if an American family was to consistently spend more than it makes, and many do, and you shouldn't be doing that, but if that was the case, we know what debt, bankruptcy, foreclosures look like. So simply put, the government can do 2 things for its household that the American consumer household cannot do for itself. Number 1, it could print more money. Can you imagine at your household if you're like, baby, we spent too much money. Shoot, what do we do? Baby, go print some more. Could you imagine that? That would be amazing. That's what our politicians do. And the second thing that they could do is they could tax. They could levy taxes to our citizens. We cannot levy taxes. So when the American household overspends, we pay the price. When the government overspends, we just simply get into more debt. And we're going to have an opinion on this, and we're going to have to start making some changes. And I'm going to tell you why. If you're out, I get it. I know. I hear you. Jason, why haven't we done something about this? Why hasn't anybody done anything about it? Here's why. It's called political suicide. If any politician was to address the fact our long-term solvency of the United States of America, our budget, our numbers, our debt and deficit, they would most likely lose the vote because everybody likes to spend money that's not theirs. And so this is an area where we have to really rein in the fiscal responsibility, or we're going to be in a tough situation. Likewise, trade. If you take a look at trade, I mentioned budget deficit, but trade deficit. What's trade deficit? It's essentially if we are buying, say, a certain amount of product from China, for example. If we buy, I'm just going to make up the numbers, if we bought $500 billion worth of goods from China, but then sold China $300 billion worth of goods from us, we have a trade deficit of $200 billion. What that does is that may give us products at a lower price. And many times that's what American consumers are seeking. However, it also hurts the American what? The American worker, which is who we're talking about here today on this video. Number 4, taxes. Here's a question for you. If your income represented $1, So if I had $1 right here and that was your income, 100% or 100 pennies. How much, listen, how much is too much in taxes? That's a question that you need to answer. No, but don't give me your opinions on what we should spend. Tell me the number. Answer with a number. 40 cents? 30 cents? 50 cents? 60 cents? Do you really believe that a worker should give more money to the government than they make for themselves? Oh, but they're rich. I don't have an opinion. This is all about you forming yours. The simply put is, at what point is taxing too much? And you're going to have to decide that and have an answer for that. How much should the most pay for? So if you believe in, well, the rich should pay a little bit more, than maybe middle class, and maybe middle class should pay more than, the bottom tier class, the poor class. And that's called a progressive tax system. And you could decide that too. What interval and at what income level should we tax? And again, that determines our fiscal policy for the United States of America. So taxes are so important to the worker, because if we don't collect enough in taxes, we can't take care of our fellow brothers and sisters in the United States. And we need to do that. And we have to offer certain services, and we have to protect our citizens. However, if we tax too much, we disincentivize growth. We disincentivize somebody to want to get up and go to work, and then that has a counterbalance to the overall longevity and security for our country. And so we need to make sure to find that happy medium. You should have that opinion. Finally, number 5, infrastructure. Infrastructure would be to take a look at our roads, our buildings, our airports, our public transportation. At one point in time, the United States was cutting edge in these areas. And the more that I've had a chance to travel the world, and for those of you that have seen certain countries, it seems like we're falling a little bit backwards. And maybe we're competitive in certain areas, but maybe this is one area that we need to take a look at. And what's the benefit of infrastructure spending? It creates more jobs. Anytime the United States has a big construction project, people are working. That's great. What's the downside? Costs a lot of money. And typically when government runs a project versus the private sector, we tend to be a little bit more wasteful of the money. And so that's a decision that we'd have to make. Do we want infrastructure to be built and outsourced to private companies? Again, not saying one way or the other. Should the government oversee this entire project? I don't know, but we should have an opinion. So let's do a quick recap. The American worker has many different variables that affect the stability and the power of us working. Our domestic policy typically revolves around our economy. The economy typically revolves around how many people are working, what are they making, what's the minimum wage, and are they able to take care of their own families? That's under the jobs umbrella. We talked about manufacturing. We talked about our budget deficit and our trade deficit. We also talked about taxes, and we wrapped up with infrastructure. Now, regardless of how you feel of any of these issues, no matter what your position is on any of the 5 issues I brought up for the American worker, we must understand 2 things. Number 1, in order to be a leader for life, you'll have to earn the trust, and you'll have to be compassionate towards the people that are around you. Remember, you don't live in a bubble. You're a leader. And if you're a leader, you've got a lot of people around you. And if you got a lot of people around you, they are entitled to disagreeing with you. They need to feel a level of compassion that you have, that you're approachable enough for them to share their feelings and to open up to you, because that's inevitably how we form trust with our working partners. Again, whether in a household, corporation, sports team, or church, we need to make sure that we have that trust. But at the same time, point number 2 is also true. You can't lose who you are, and you can't compromise yourself and what you stand for just to make other people more comfortable. And I know at least in my opinion, this is an area where I'm going to share my opinion. I feel that in an effort to gain relationships or an effort not to offend people, what a lot of people are doing is just simply being quiet. And I believe in their intention, but I do not believe in their action. I believe that their intention is to keep the peace and to relax and not have arguments. However, by doing it that way, what we're doing is we're slowly silencing each other to make each other feel better. And so I believe that you lose who you are, and I believe you lose how powerful your message can be. And quite frankly, our opinions evolve over time. In 10 years, 20 years, I may have a different opinion on certain issues because I got new information and I had new experiences. And we're all entitled to go through that growth pattern in life, but we need to, number one, stand for what we stand for, and two, have the wherewithal and the open-mindedness to be able to listen to the others. So whether you're leading a family, a business, a team, a church, the free-flowing exchange of ideas is critical to the success of any democracy. And I'm going to repeat this in many of our series as we talk about American politics. The free-flowing exchange of ideas is critical to the success of any organization, specifically our country, the United States of America. And I'll leave you with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said, "Anybody can overcome adversity. If you want to know the true character of a man or woman, give him power." And so if you have power and you've been entrusted to lead even one human being, I want you to know something. You are a leader. Maybe you're not where you want to be, but as you choose to be a leader for life, and you keep taking these tools and keep grabbing every little thing and saying, hey, I got to improve in this area, improve in that area. And you use Leader for Life channel as well as other platforms to go ahead and better yourself. I think more and more people are going to follow you. I think more and more people are going to seek your opinion and they're going to come to you, which gives you a big responsibility to do the right thing. And how you live your life is going to influence how so many other people around you live your life. And I'm excited to be a part of your development. I'm excited to provide you value here. And I encourage you that if this content helped you in any way, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel, Leader for Life. I also encourage you to share this video with individuals that may like politics, but even specifically, people that are a little bit nervous about politics or would like some introductions to politics. This 5-part series is going to help them a lot. Again, go back to video 1, America, the individual. This is American worker. And then in the next video, in number 3, we're going to be talking about American security system, and we're going to go into institutions as well as the future of the United States of America. So like, comment, share, specifically comment. What video do you want us to do? What topic do you want us to have? Do you have a story that pertains to any of these 5 points that you'd like to share? Again, understand it's a public platform, so whoever you talk about may be watching this, but we'd love to hear from you. Take care, God bless, and continue to be a leader for life.